Oh, hey. I heard a rumor that breakfast is the most important meal of the day.
Umbrella Academy!
Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Clara.
And today we are giving you our full season Spoilercast review of The Umbrella Academy. We're going to talk about our highlights of the season. We're going to talk about our criticisms, our MVPs, who are our most valuable players, and then we're going to give it a grade at the end. What were your overall thoughts?
Incredibly enjoyable and very bingeable.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think that this is a show that we both enjoy, but also definitely have our problems with. The pilot and sort of the premise starting out, it's a good pilot. I feel like it sucks you in to this sort of, obviously it's almost like X-Men inspired world that's like a darker take on it. You have this family coming back together after the death of their estranged father figure. And I like the sort of setup of like, oh, here's number one, here's number whatever, and then you're seeing where they all are.
Two is the next number.
But I also thought it was like, and then you skip over like 5 and 6, and you're like, well, what happened there?
Yeah.
I think that the production design, the acting.
Can we talk about the production design for just a second? Yeah. The donut shop. Yeah. Like, just that alone, that set, that is so evocative and just really great. And every scene where they're in the house, it's done so well. It feels sort of like a video game. Yeah. It reminded me a little bit of Amnesia, almost. Like you're in this beautiful place, but the lighting and every element of the design works to make it a bit unsettling. Well,
and it makes you, like, at the end, when it gets destroyed, it makes me sad. Yeah. You know, like, I don't want that to be gone. Of course, then there's time travel, so we'll probably be right back anyway. The space is very interesting. I even think that they did a pretty good job with the various hotel rooms that they were in.
Yeah, really well done.
So, yeah, I think that the setup is good. The costuming's good. I think that the CGI is pretty impressive for the most part.
Yeah, for
a TV show especially. When they have them, the action sequences are pretty well choreographed and set up.
And some are obviously like showstopper action sequences, but all of them, overall, all enjoyable, fun action sequences.
I mean, my wondering about that, though, is I do think that they should have had more, and I'm wondering if it's like, well, they couldn't have done them at that level if they wanted to do more of them, where it's like they just didn't necessarily have the budget to be like, oh, we're going to do this level of quality for times 3 or 4. I don't know.
I guess I didn't want more action sequences necessarily. I liked that it was more character driven.
Well, I'm not saying like I need tons of action, but I feel like honestly in a genre like this, having one thing an episode isn't a big deal. And I felt like the middle of the season, like they had a lot of great stuff at the beginning and then like some solid stuff at the end. But I feel like the middle of the season there was like a huge slog of time where there like wasn't action.
Yeah.
I do.
But highlights.
Highlights, yes, highlights. So I really liked the music and the soundtrack and the use of the dance sequences. I think were definitely highlights for me. Both the sequence in the pilot of them dancing and then sort of cutting to that, like, oh, we're seeing like the dollhouse of it all. Yeah. Was a good way to sort of set up the tone of the show, make them endearing.
It was actually, I thought, really cool characterization. Yeah. Like, that was a really cool moment of showing their character.
Yeah. And I actually think it would have been great to have even more moments like that. Like, I feel like it sets up a tone that they don't always follow through on. For me, Dancing in the Moonlight is, like, one of the best sequences of the show. I think that, you know, like, the Don't Stop Me Now thing, the first shootout at the donut shop. I mean...
Barracuda.
Yeah, there's lots of great moments. I mean, like, are they, like, moments that, like, other things have also sort of done? Is this idea something that is not necessarily the freshest ever?
X-Men.
Yeah. Yeah, and notably Watchmen, which we'll get back to too. Watchmen was known for these like choices, like musical choices you wouldn't expect to sort of contrast with the darkness of what's happening. But I still think that it worked when they did it. Yeah. I think that when Cha-Cha and Hazel first come into the academy, to me that is the best sequence, like the best action sequence of the whole show. Fun. Yeah, seeing them all sort of fight together, seeing Hazel and Cha-Cha be able to actually hold their own when they don't have powers, I thought was really cool. Yeah. And then that actually leads right into my next highlight, which was right after that, which is Diego having to kill his mother. Yeah. I think that the whole thing of Grace as the mother character is one of the most interesting things about the show.
So interesting. Yeah. When we first saw Grace, I thought she was a ghost.
Yeah.
Which was so cool. Like, she was a really cool part.
Well, I think that to me, the part of the reason Grace is so good is that she's one of the few things that I'm like, oh, this is out there, but it's for a metaphorical, like, good sci-fi reason, right? Where it's like, oh, we're going to evoke the idea of, like, the robotic mother, especially the robotic 50s mother. We're going to evoke the idea of, oh, they're getting dementia, and we're also evoking the idea of having to pull the plug on someone. Yeah. Like, all of those metaphors created a very good scene there, I felt like, with Diego. And I feel like that kind of writing and thinking is what the show was lacking in some of its other areas.
Can I slide into a critique? I think one thing that the show does is they give a scene a lot of emotional resonance and then they backtrack.
Yeah.
Because they need to make it last for 10 episodes and they don't want to actually kill Grace off that early. Yeah. But so then maybe they could have postponed that and had it actually matter.
I agree. Like,
especially since she ended up dying.
Yeah, there was no reason to bring her back, honestly. I don't feel like she didn't, like, and especially because you would have gotten to see her again anyway in Vanya's flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like, and continuing in that idea of both the positive and the negative, I really liked Pax and Diego's dynamic, but it just didn't last very long at all because they killed off Pax so quickly. And I think that they were the most interesting romantic dynamic on the show, and also an interesting subversion or just different take on the, like, I'm Batman and I have a Gordon idea, where it's like, oh, we're going to make that a romantic thing and also have it be in the past. Like, that she realizes it was a mistake and that you can't actually have a functional relationship with a Batman character. you know, like,
no, that could have been really cool. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, but I do think that what they set up there was awesome, and unfortunately, it just, sometimes killing off a character isn't the right idea, even if it's shocking, is I guess what my feeling is.
I blame Game of Thrones for that.
Yeah, to a certain degree, yeah. I also want to talk about Luther. I know you're going to have some criticisms about him, but I have no idea what your issues are, so I'll be interested to hear about that. I do want to say I personally liked the evolution of Luther as, like, the by-the-book guy who was the only one left who believed in his father figure. Him learning that he'd been sort of, used and mistreated the whole time. And his whole sort of, like, rave thing and all that.
Can I say, I love Luther as a character. Yeah. I really do. I think he's really well done. Yeah. Kind of surprising. Yeah. Because they make a character choice for him, which is that he goes by the rules and he, like, holds the mission in the top priority. Yeah. And then it makes him incredibly unlikable by the last episode, in my opinion.
Okay, so what is that about?
But they do it.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he refuses to listen to Allison, even after they keep having these emotional moments where Allison thinks that like, oh, now he really, like, now we have a, like, full connection. Yeah. And then again, he refuses to listen to her, refuses to trust her, doesn't think she can handle things on her own. Yeah. That is a choice that they're making about him. They could have made him have a sympathetic moment at the end, and they don't give it to him.
Well, the thing that's extra interesting about that is that they gave it to him, and then they took it away with the reversal of time. Yeah.
No, it was really cool. So when I say that I think that Luther is not, at this point in time where the show is, he's a bad person.
Okay.
He's a frustrating human being who has many flaws.
Yeah, stubborn.
And is not a heroic character, in my opinion. Well, and he's a bad leader.
That was what I was going to say. He's kind of stupid in an annoying way. Because, like, in the final episode, then this gets into a bigger issue I have in general, which is I feel like in the final episode, they don't actually really come together as a team. It's just a bunch of random crap happening.
And they all have a different idea.
Yeah, and Luther never actually takes command. It's very interesting because Luther is very, like Captain America-y, right? Where it's like, oh, I believe in what's right, and
but
then
they make it negative in a way that's very realistic. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Especially, I also want to throw in the like, oh, he's never had sex before thing is very Captain America-y. Yeah, but I agree. But he never has his Captain America, like, I'm a leader moment.
And I love that, because they can do that later.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like they needed to give it to him right now, and it makes him in a really interesting place going into season 2. And it makes me feel like he's actually a character.
Well, I think, they want him to be flawed. They want him to be Captain America, but anti-hero.
I would say he's the most realistically flawed of any of the characters. Yeah. I actually, to me, Luther is the most well-developed character in the show.
Yeah, I can see it. And the other thing is they're putting Captain America, but they're also giving him like the Thing sort of idea of like, I'm a monster, I'm disgusting.
Yeah. Like, no, it's good. Yeah. I think
overall he's pretty well done. My next highlight was that they reversed that whole episode. I thought that was interesting. Then watching the next episode and seeing how it's shifted and everything, I thought was pretty cool. I also liked Klaus's development throughout the season. I think Klaus in general was a enjoyable, engaging character.
Super fun.
I think he might be my favorite actor on the show. Just like the presence that he brings.
I mean, basically, I think I was saying to you, like, anytime he was on screen, he was who I wanted to watch. Yeah. He was super fun. I wanted him on the whole time. Yeah.
I did love the shave scene. Him with the dad in the black and white. I thought that was a really cool scene, and I think the show is honestly at its best when it's trying to be experimental, and that like in some ways what doesn't work is that they don't do that and they don't lean into it enough.
I agree.
I also like the reveal that Reginald committed suicide, and that is the like, because I for a while I was like, the answer to the murder mystery is going to be there is no end, like he just died. But
I thought so too.
So that was like one of the few things that surprised me about the show.
Yeah.
Like I didn't see that coming, even though it makes total sense.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good.
So I thought that was cool.
Partly because they do a really good job keeping him very mysterious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't feel like I had a good read on him. I couldn't feel sympathetic towards him, even though there were things that he did that were sympathetic. And that's also, I think, well done. Yeah.
Actually, I don't think I gave them enough credit for Reginald. I think that was especially a good setup for, like, there's going to be more in season 2. And I feel
especially as Klaus is developing.
Yeah, I feel like they did a good job of laying that season 1 foundation while leaving room for us to find out more in the future. Another thing that to me was somewhat of a surprise, and I don't know if it was for you or not, but the reveal of whose eye it was being Leonard / Harold, that to me was a surprise, even though I saw Leonard / Harold being the like bad guy who pushes her into using her powers. I didn't necessarily see...
I didn't think he would... You know what they did? I didn't think he's going to be that important.
Yeah.
And that's good.
Yeah.
Ooh, look at this show. Surprising me still.
I think my favorite moment actually was Vanya slashing Allison. And then that also having an actual impact of her losing her voice. I mean, when I first saw it, I really did think she was dead.
Me too.
But the fact that she loses her voice... I like where if you think someone's going to be dead and then they're not, at least give them some sort of repercussion, right? Yeah. So I think that was a nice...
especially for Allison, whose power is dependent on her voice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my last little highlight here I want to talk about was Ben, the sort of reveal of Ben being able to actually interact with the physical world via Klaus's abilities. That wasn't something I saw coming, thought it was cool. It means that we can get more from Ben next season, hopefully. And why don't we use that to dive in a little, just jump ahead to talking about Ben as a character.
How? Sorry.
Exactly. I think Ben is one of the weakest parts of the season because he isn't really a character. He I was excited when we first saw him as like the dead one, because I was like, because when I first heard he was dead, I was like, really? You had to like kill him, like kill off the only Asian character? And I was like, but it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna still get to see him. But he was just a sounding board for Klaus's like conscience. And I didn't feel like
he didn't have a personality.
His personality was, oh, Klaus, can't you do better? I believe you can do better. And like maybe a little snarky at times, but it was like, if you had told me at the end of all that it was just a figment of Klaus's imagination, that would be totally believable.
I thought up until really long into the show.
That he was just a pigment. Yeah.
So that like the other people that Klaus saw were real, but he was so like, I miss Ben so much that he was just that would have been cool.
Honestly,
Well,
except for the fact that he like brought him into reality. I agree. I do agree. I actually think that would have been a more interesting reveal if it's like, oh, you think that he's using his power, but with this one particular person, it's just like guilt or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some more criticisms.
Can I just say, I do really like this show.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We're going to get pretty critical here, but we both enjoyed the show. My thing that made me kind of sad as I went further in is I loved it when I was at the first 4 episodes.
Me too.
I really, really enjoyed it. And then I feel like it kind of squandered some of its potential. Yeah. And so to me, that's part of why I have so much criticism, is because I liked it so much that I'm holding it to a standard where I'm like, you could have been more than you were. Like, it's just, I don't know. So an example of that is I felt like it was trying to be something like Watchmen. It was trying to have some sort of point of view, to have some sort of satire. Ultimately, it didn't feel like it had much to say. It didn't feel like it was actually an allegory or that it actually had a metaphor behind it. It was just a darker X-Men as opposed to like a talking about X-Men, right? It was like when it
and I think part of that, maybe we can use this to segue into a next point.
Yeah.
Is that Vanya's plot line?
Yeah.
So it could have had some sort of message like ordinary is relative, or like they could have done that. No, that would have been maybe derivative, but
at least it would be saying
would have
something.
Had a point.
Yeah.
And by giving Vanya superpowers, it does end up just being like superhero versus superhero versus superhero.
Well, and even worse than that, and that it's like literally just Dark Phoenix. Like we literally have like Luthor as Cyclops, Diego as Wolverine, Jean Grey is Allison, and Dark Phoenix is Vanya. Like, there's so much X-Men in here, and so many other the writer even says that the writer of Watchmen is one of his favorite writers. Like
Gerard Way.
Yeah. And so it's
highlight.
Yeah.
Gerard Way. Okay. Go on.
Yeah, I'm just like it feels like it was trying to be something more and then just never quite got there. Mm-hmm. Like it felt like it was setting up these connections and these metaphors, and it was trying to be stylistic, but I agree with you. Ultimately, it just was, we're having a big battle in a concert hall, which I feel like I've seen 1,000 times. Like, it's... Yeah. I don't know.
No, so basically, they set up some interesting stakes.
Yeah.
And then they didn't follow through on those interesting stakes that were about the relationships between people.
Yeah.
And you don't get to have Vanya and Allison have a moment, or Vanya confront Luthor.
Yeah.
The stake ends up just being the battle, which seems weird because that was never what any of us thought was going to be the stakes.
Yeah. Well, it's... Yeah, I mean, to me, it would be like if the entire final chapter of Haunting of Hill House was them, like, being Ghostbusters, right?
I don't know, that could have been...
Which, I mean, it's not one-to-one because they were always superheroes, but I agree with you that there isn't a lot of... Like, they tried to give it some emotional resonance by having it be like, oh, is Allison going to have to shoot her? But, like, that was the only moment in that finale that had emotional resonance. And
then she doesn't.
Yeah.
So, but then you don't get the payoff from that because because it doesn't do the thing.
Yeah.
So they...
Exactly.
It was like dubstep, but then the beat didn't drop.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that I pointed out here too is they only built up Allison and Vanya. Vanya barely interacted with any of the rest of the family, and so Vanya, one of the main family members, turning bad and being their the ultimate thing they have to defeat, feels kind of empty because. Yeah. Diego never gave a crap about her. Five cared about her for about 10 seconds and then completely stopped caring.
But I read online, maybe this is wrong, I haven't read the comics, that Diego has a love plot with Vanya
That's really weird.
I'm sorry to tell you that. Maybe it's wrong.
I mean, well, maybe they just aren't going to do it on the TV show, but that is particularly odd.
Mm-hmm. I got nothing for you.
Man, okay. So yeah.
Maybe it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, why don't we use that to transition to talking about the incest stuff?
Oh, sure. That's weird, huh? I mean...
It didn't... Okay, here's the thing. It didn't bother me.
You know what, Dan?
Yeah.
It didn't bother me either until I thought about it. Because they made it really cute and their relationship is adorable. Yeah. And I really like it a lot.
Yeah. It was established from the beginning of this, like almost the pilot, that you could tell there was something there and that there had always been something there. As opposed to, like, my biggest issue is when it's a show where it's like, oh, these two have been siblings.
Yeah.
Oh, but secretly one of them realizes that they have feelings for you.
Okay, yeah, that would have been so
that's
gross.
So much, like, if Luther, like, that's why I'm saying the Diego Vanya thing would be, like, really, really fucked up to me. Because it's like, oh, if they realized that they were in love with their sibling, but they hadn't, like... At least they had, from the very beginning, had feelings for each other.
Yeah. But no, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, you were trying really hard to be X-Men. Yeah. You need them to have a little relationship.
Yeah.
The Avengers, but, like, then you can't have them be brothers and sisters. You could have them all be, we're all studying at this school.
Yeah. Or even if they were, like, adopted at 10 or so, or like 15 or something. It's like,
but then you have to deal with the ramifications of that, where they're friends with each other. They don't consider each other brothers and sisters. So then the stakes with Vanya get lowered.
I think it would work better if it was like, we're a metaphorical family. Like, we've all been through the same, like, there's so many shows where it's we're a family.
That could 100% have been it, but they didn't.
Yeah. I've accepted it. It's weird, but I've accepted it.
Can we talk about Luther being on the moon now?
Yes, we can talk about Luther being on the moon.
Why? Does anyone out there know why Luther was on the moon?
Probably specifically to foreshadow the moon being the destruction of the planet.
I hate that.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that it served some sort of character relevance it could have been anything else, though. The whole thing of him finding all the samples and realizing he was up there for nothing.
They could have done, Dad has a business on the moon. And I would have said, okay, there's also a gorilla, fine.
Yeah.
Or they could have had Pogo, but, like, not I don't
both. Know. So it's... I'm very torn about how zany the show is. Because I do agree, it's like, their mom's a robot, and they have a butler monkey, and Luther was made into a half monkey.
Okay, why was that the way to save him, to turn him into a half monkey? Oh, gotta inject you with the same serum I injected my loving servant Pogo with so many years ago? Like, no. To save his life?
No. Okay.
Yes.
So my thought process was that Pogo just is a monkey.
He's a super intelligent monkey.
And so my thought process was that Reginald had done a lot of experimentation with monkeys and knew a lot about monkeys, and that's where the connection lies.
Why would it save Luther's life
to become a monkey? Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think that it's trying to be over the top. Usually I would talk about double mumbo jumbo, which is something I was mentioning to you earlier, where it's like, you can just try to stay in your lane and not combine too many different ideas, right? So, like, if you're doing a zombie movie, you don't suddenly have Terminator show up. You don't suddenly have Mickey Mouse show. Like, I'm almost more forgiving of this because of how much they do. Like, they're doing it for a choice. To be like, this is crazy. But the thing that's interesting is, with all this stuff we're saying, I'm like, well, it's a comic book. And I feel like the thing that's interesting here is that this is one of the first times where it was just, here's a crazy fucking comic book. We're just doing it. Like, we're not adapting it that much. We're just doing what the comic book is. And no one's, like, questioning it. No one's saying, how weird is it that there's an ape here? Like, they just already have him and are used to him. And, like, to a certain degree, that's interesting. I was okay with Grace, even though she seemed like an extra thing that wasn't necessary.
She felt totally appropriate.
Because they actually had a reason. Why do we have a robot mom? Here's a reason. Here's multiple reasons. Here's an allegorical reason. Here's an in-world reason as far as Vanya killing all the other people. Like, you know, it makes sense on like an interesting story thing as far as like, oh, they're the one person who showed them love with a robot. What does that do to them emotionally? Like that like had so many layers to it and was absurd. Whereas then you're having these, and the thing is like, I'm okay with, even though it makes no sense, Luther being half ape, because at least that creates character moments.
I love that. Yeah. It just frustrates me.
Yeah.
I guess that they expect, you know what it is I, like, full confession time, like, I read some comics, but I don't read comics a lot. Yeah. And Netflix was not, I don't feel like Netflix said, like, this is only for people who read a lot of comic books. It was, this is this new Netflix original series. Yeah. And, like, it feels like they were expecting me to come along with them. Yeah. In a way that I didn't automatically do. I feel like the trailer, by having Pogo in it, was helpful for setting the tone for an audience. And that's like, why Pogo didn't bother me as much as he could have. Yeah, because you knew what you were getting into with Pogo. The show is at its very best when it is going into emotion. Yeah. And when it tries to deflect from the emotion, it seems weird and flailing. We brought up Hill House earlier, and it's like, I think that when it was at its best was when it was basically Hill House, right? Which is, oh, it's an estranged family who had a crappy childhood, that now one of them's a drug addict, and one of them wrote a book about... this should be your mashup. One of them wrote a book selling the rest of them out, and it's all about them trying to come back together. But, like, and the family dynamics, the problem, that's why I'm saying, like, to me, the problem is Vanya, like, almost never interacted with anybody else. Right. You know what? They shouldn't have had her write that expose. Yeah. Because she should have been, like, the little sister sort of thing of, like, we're all looking out for you, Vanya. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Because then they would have felt invested in her, and she would have felt some sort of reciprocity. Yeah. Like, do you want to talk about what you were saying about the issues with Vanya as far as mental health? Yes. So I recognize that there's a trope, and I don't have a problem with the trope per se, of characters needing to master their emotions because those emotions will kill everyone in the entire world unless they're brought under control. Yeah. Emotions are volatile. Emotions are volatile, but, like, more than that, it's like, all your strong emotions are bad. Except also they're the most powerful things in the universe. Yeah. And so if you try to control your emotions, then you're not powerful. And if you try to not control your emotions, you'll kill everyone you love. Well, I think that the line that you just said that I don't agree with is if you try to control your emotions, you're not powerful. Because I think... No, I said you're trying to get mastery over your emotions. But so my issue is, like... If you dampen your emotions, you're not powerful. It's more of the message. Well, and, I mean, in this case specifically, it's if you're on any sort of, like, mood stabilizer, you're not taking full... Like, you're not your full self. You're not your true self. Yeah. In this case, for Vanya, yeah. But we also saw Vanya having, like, panic attacks. I thought Ellen Page was, like, super great in that scene where she was in the, like, solitary confinement cell. Like, it was incredible. I, like, really felt like a panic attack was being depicted very well. But, like, I'm on mood stabilizers, and I'm not, like, I'm not psyched about them consistently being portrayed as, like, if you're on them, you have no emotions, and if you stop taking them, you would suddenly unleash your potential out into the world. I think this is one of those examples where I'm like, well, the specifics of what's going on here make me have less of an issue with it, but when you do extrapolate it to a greater message, I see where you're coming from. I'm just sort of, like, fed up with the trope of, like, characters who have mental illness in films, if they stop taking the drugs, they become more themselves and more powerful. Yeah. Like, I guess I just find that tired. Yeah, and I would rather see it reversed in some way. And I mean, I think a lot of things, you know, I think we've sort of danced around this in general, is that a lot of this is derivative.
A lot of it can be easily guessed and can be seen parallels to numerous other works. We haven't even talked about like the apocalypse part of it. You know, like it's so Watchmen-y and so many other things. And to me, the commission was the thing that was way too far. To me, I was like, I can accept that he time traveled. I can accept the apocalypse is coming. I don't need this weird organization that's like all powerful and controlling everything and wants the apocalypse to happen for a reason that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense.
There were so many villains that couldn't be the villain themselves.
Yeah. I felt like Hazel and Cha-Cha were great in the first half and then just like fizzled. Like I said, the best scene to me, one of the best scenes, was them storming the academy, and that was like the best.
That laboratory scene was really fun too.
The what?
The lab where
that was cool. But as far as like, oh, you're doing a superhero thing, that was the best like battle, and then in fact they killed Patch after that. I was like, this is building up like interesting antagonists that feel threatening, and that there feels like an emotional thing there, and then they just completely like. I mean, obviously, like, they gave Hazel an interesting arc, but, like, it just completely deflated the stakes of the season. Yeah. To me, having the apocalypse be your stakes in general, it should be the thing that creates the highest possible stakes ever. But to me, it's the worst amount of stakes ever, because I'm like, well, they're not going to do it because then the show is over and all of your characters are dead. Yeah. So, like, to me, I'm like, oh, we're building up. Like, I didn't feel a rising tension as we got farther into the season because I was like, and it's okay, so technically they did do it, but then, but they also didn't. Like, I don't know. I guess the thing that at the end of the day is I felt like bringing something like the End of the World and the Commission into this story, which I felt like ultimately at its best was an engaging family tale, was just way too big of an issue. Whereas, like, I actually think done well, simplifying it to Vanya, the member of your family, has gone crazy and you're trying to help save them, and maybe even doing some sort of metaphor about her, like, mental state or mental break, or I don't know, whatever it be, even if that might end up having bad representation, at least it's like a message. You could have done something with it, and like having it be about trying to save a family member from herself and not have to be we're trying to kill her to save the apocalypse. It just I don't know. It felt like it was at odds with itself.
No, like they could have done that, and it could have been a sort of like take on X-Men. Yeah. Or they could have done like, this season we're just doing Hazel and Cha-Cha as the villains, and then at the end you realize they're part of this bigger organization called the Commission. I agree. And then that's your second, like, and then that way it's a more just sort of like, let's focus on the family dynamic, but there's the really cool fight scenes.
Yeah, I just felt like, again, the dynamic was the thing that was most interesting. So then when you take 5 out of there and you put him into this weird like office space, I'm like, now we're in a space that's so far crazy, so super crazy, that I can't relate to it at all anymore.
Well, it doesn't feel gritty anymore. Yeah. Like I think the gritty reality stuff was much more interesting to me than the zany fun stuff. Yeah. In general, but more than that is when they brought the zaniness into the gritty,
exactly.
rather than the gritty into the zany.
It was the contrast of having these intense scenes and then having them dance. It was the contrast of, holy crap, you see how intense what's the other fucking names? Cha-Cha and Hansel. Hansel and Gretel. You see how intense Hansel and Gretel are, and then they're doing that high, blowing up the lab thing. Like, that contrast, I think, was working really well. But when you go into the completely, like, there's nothing to relate to here at all anymore.
Because it would be different scenes with different people. So it felt less like in the same world these different tones exist, and more like this person has this tone. Yeah. This person has this tone. Yeah. Which is like...
Also, I love that when we were naming all, like, the crazy mumbo-jumbo stuff, we didn't even say, oh, and you have a child being an old man hitman.
That's fun.
On top of anything.
But you know what they do? They explain it. They don't explain it well. They go, time dilation. That works backwards. Like... But fine, they gave me a one sentence. They were like, we know you as the audience member is probably confused about this. Time dilation. They could have said like, oh, Pogo, like, my dad's old science experiment or like my father's moon business, but no.
You were the fucking moon business.
I'm going to start a moon business. You'll see.
Let's talk about the gender stuff.
Okay. I started realizing like, oh my God, Diego is beingness. This is the like classic really annoying gender thing that happens where they kill off the female characters to give a male character development instead of giving him development for himself or letting a female character exist without being killed.
Yeah. This trope is called frigging the girlfriend. Or the wife. Have you ever heard of this? Or the
mother.
Yeah. So that trope, the term comes from a time where a Green Lantern came home and found his girlfriend dismembered and left in a fridge.
Ah, yes. Okay, well, so yes, they fridged some people. And then it started getting really, like, so then I was noticing things.
Yeah.
And so then you have, like, Cha-Cha, who's cool, but she goes berserk because she's jealous of his relationship with this donut lady.
Yeah.
That instead of making it about like all the work we've done now is irrelevant, she's like, I'm gonna kill her and make you watch. Is like, okay.
Well, I mean, to be fair, so lay out all of them first and then we'll talk about
then Vanya having the trope of like she can't control her emotions and it's going to destroy the world.
Yep.
And then, as you pointed out, like, Allison's power is spreading rumors.
Yeah. I have some pushback on some of these. I do agree that the overall thing, it's stacked in a bad way. It's stacked in a bad way. The thing that I think is interesting is that I do think a lot of these characters are complex enough that these things didn't stick out to me right away. The thing that, I agree, to me, the frigging of Pact was obvious, and that stuck out to me.
Well, and it happened at the same time. Basically, as Grace.
Yeah.
And, see, the thing about that was the only thing that Diego had.
Yeah. So I agree. To me, the Grace thing was so well handled and also was evocative of like them dying of old age or whatever.
It could have been great.
Yeah. To me, the stuff with Grace was so good. Like that's totally worth it. And I thought in some ways it was interesting for Grace as a character too, because it was like she got to the end of her span or whatever.
But then they brought
her back, which made it stupid. And then I feel like Allison, I see the argument there being like, oh, the only woman with like powers for most of the show is like manipulative starlet who gets what she wants and manipulates men and blah, blah, blah.
But I really liked Allison as a character so much.
She's a multi-layered character. Oh, you also missed the part where she was like a bad mom and stuff too.
Right. That's also her negative trait is that she's a bad mom.
Yeah. On the flip side, I think that the idea of taking the metaphor of, rumors can have real world consequences and you can say something that's a lie and it becomes reality because people believe in it, and making that literal is one of the examples where I'm like, this is an interesting metaphor, like, as opposed to just random crap happening.
And they could have switched, like, I wish that, like, she could have been the strong one. Yeah. And then Luther could have been the one who was gossiping.
Yeah. I mean, at the same time, I feel like the fact that as soon as we met her, she had already gotten past that stage of herself and it had already blown up in her face.
Yeah.
Like, to me,
well done.
She was nuanced and she was interesting. It was a cool power. I thought it was really interesting to be like, oh, imagine if you had this power and you did have a kid. Like, I don't judge her. I'm more like, that's dark and fascinating. Like,
I loved her as a character.
I think that was really good. Vanya, I do think it has one of the best arcs of, like, despite her issues, I think is a multi-layered character that's relatable.
Definitely Ellen Page added so much.
I think she was really good.
I think of it more as missed opportunities. I think Patch was a bad decision.
Yeah.
And thinking of like killed love interests. So was the only like gay relationship we saw with Klaus and Dave, and they just kill off Dave. We don't even get
you get like half a second. Does Dave even like say more than 2 lines?
I don't know. I don't think so. In the grand scheme of the 10 hours that I watched of it, not much. And like if Patch had been alive, and she could have been like, be a good person, Diego. I mean, he could have been like, now I've learned.
If we could have ended the season with him like actually becoming a cop, That would have been a way more interesting arc. And then season 2, have him deal with the fact that, like, he's trying to stay on the straight and narrow. He's trying. It's getting harder and harder. Like, that is a cool, like, like, that is a story. I don't know. I agree with you. And on top of that, you think he has a stupid power.
Okay. Diego is second, and he can breathe underwater for longer than normal. And throw knives better than normal. If Vanya had just took it, like, she could have taken a swim class, and she could have taken a knife throwing class, and she probably would have been up there with Diego.
No, or she could have just been like the archer, and it would have been up there with Diego.
She could have fucking learned how to shoot a gun. She would have been up there actually.
She would have been better than she learned how to shoot a gun. So it's true. I mean, I didn't think about it that much, but because I've seen powers like this before. It's like he's really accurate. He can. It's almost be like almost like he's like has homing knives, right? But you're right that ultimately it's just a knife. They're
in a world where they have like bombs and shit.
Wolverine is considered like one of the strong ones. He's like the bad, and he just has knives too, but he can't even throw them. Like,
no, but they're a part of him. Yeah. Now, if Diego's knives were part of him, yes, that would be fine because that's unusual. It's unusual.
Because anybody can throw knives.
Yes, it's unusual to be knives. It's not unusual to have knives.
It's fair.
Let's just think about their powers.
Yeah.
And who they chose. Maybe the ordering system is reversed.
Because that makes it going in reverse makes sense, right? Because if it's Vanya, then Ben, then 5.
And then either Allison or Klaus.
Yeah. So it almost makes sense to go reverse, yeah.
I mean, I'm very frustrated about Diego. And I'm kind of frustrated with Luther, but he might have space powers.
I don't think he has space powers.
I'll just go to the moon to work on my space powers. Okay. So confused.
All right. I'm going to say some things that I did like.
Okay.
Because we had these MVPs.
Yeah.
And I think we can both agree that Hazel was a very good character.
I loved Hazel.
I think the actor did a great job. I think the nuances...
He was so subdued.
Yeah. The nuances of his comedy versus his empathy versus his badassery. You know, as wacky and zany as his plot is, and the fact that you're supposed to sympathize with him when he's like this crazy serial killer dude. I mean, it's crazy, but it works.
No, that works. Yeah, that was the best. Hazel and Cha Cha were like, I thought to myself, now this is zany, but this works.
Yeah. Number 5 was enjoyable. We should have said more about number 5 as an actor. I think he was the most. Good job. He's the most impressive actor coming out of this, personally.
Yeah.
I think he
Netflix child actors.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's really, really good. I think that his action scenes were the best action scenes. His comedy was the best comedy. His everything. He was great.
Yep.
I want to say the characters were good or the characters were engaging or likable or whatever, but critically, I'm like, they didn't really have much of an arc. Like, okay, like there wasn't actually, like, I feel like it was trying to be a character-driven story that ultimately did not have that much character development. And Klaus, you can point to, like, Klaus learned to use his powers more and got clean. Diego didn't kill Cha-Cha. Luther became less of a schoolboy or something. 5 put away his doll. Actually, let's talk
that was weird tonally.
Well, so that was another thing. That was another double.
That worked. But you know what? Yeah. I thought Dolores worked.
I think Dolores worked because of how well they wrote 5 leading up to that point, right? Mm-hmm. That they had him...
And that actor.
Yeah, the actor. Because I think that the combination of the actor and that they had said that traveling through time might mess with his brain and that he was alone for so long, I think that all came together to add to the fact that he otherwise was pretty normal and it was like a tragic element.
It worked well also because not double mumbo jumbo. Mm-hmm. It was very apocalyptic. Like, it felt like vaguely like Mad Maxy somehow.
Or Castaway.
Like, Castaway-y.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do agree that I feel like all of that flowed in a way of weirdness that worked together as opposed to feeling super separated.
Yeah. And the fact that he felt weird about being a child but didn't feel weird about Dolores.
Yeah.
Was actually, that was well done.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, there are things, obviously, I feel like Vanya had, she had probably the most clear arc, but also, it always gets weird when it's like, oh, and then in the final episode, she's not a character anymore. Like, you know, where it's like, now she's just a force of nature or whatever. And I'm like, then you're robbing, like, so she had her big moment of exploding out of the confinement, but then you're just kind of robbing any drama.
The moment when she saw Allison and smiled, was very resonant.
Yeah, that's fair.
I liked that, and then the fact that Luther fucked things up so badly.
He was so bad. He sucked so bad.
He sucked so bad. What a terrible little trash moon boy. We didn't talk about the weird flashback with Reginald. So that was weird. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Again, it comes to, you're just doing things to be more and more crazy, where I don't think that Reginald needs to be anything other than a wacky old man.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yes, we need to explain how he knew about the apocalypse, but, like, honestly, you know what would be a better answer is if some point in the future, Five comes back to Reginald and tells him.
Yeah.
Like, that's a much more like, oh, it fits in the world we already have, blah, 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 blah. It's much more interesting if he's just a shitty dad.
Wasn't that the point of this season?
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, is that they clearly wanted to say something about, like, the idea of comic books and the idea of the X-Men and being like, oh, what does this really mean? What would this actually do to people? Blah, 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 blah. And then ultimately it was just like, oh, well, they're anti-heroes. And they're gonna go and then just be screwed up superheroes. Like, I don't, like...
So what grade would you give it?
I gave it a B.
For enjoyment, I want to give it an A-.
Wow. Wow, you're really bad at explaining why you enjoy things.
I love the feel of so much of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just like a blur.
Yeah.
And it was a fun blur.
Yeah.
It was a really fun blur, and I didn't mind watching it all at once, where other things can get a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the thing that's interesting is that I saw a lot of reviews talking about how it was sort of like overly slow-paced and ponderous and whatever.
Oh,
I didn't feel that way. Yeah, like, it was sort of slow, but also there was I feel like a lot happened in every single episode. So, I don't know. Yeah, all right.
Wait. My final grade isn't an A-.
Okay. So
final rating B.
All right, we can agree on B.
Tentatively.
VR guest.
A-.
VR guest. Thanks, guys, for watching. Please don't hate us in the comments below. And I hope you're doing okay.
If you do remember, we love it.